This video is sponsored by Normandy 1998, Christopher Mitchell, 212th Trooper, Silas 1610 and Justice Dragor, and brought to you by 212th Trooper, who requested this topic. If there is a video you want me to make, just head over to Patreon or become a channel member, and select the Pickled Producer tier, since among other benefits, this will guarantee that your video is made, be it the continuation of an existing series or a brand new story. Also, while I have you, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel, since it costs you nothing, and helps tell YouTube you like what I do. But with that out of the way, let's get on with the video. We resume our story midway into the forest training camp, which for the most part has gone as canon for the students of Class 1A, with the sole exception being Izuku, as due to not having a quirk to train, he instead simply practices with a new upgrade to his bat suit, stun gauntlets. These had been added by Bruce following the Eye Island incident, as they function similar to Nightwing's Screamer sticks, with their primary function being to send a paralyzing electric jolt through an opponent, allowing for a quicker takedown, or reducing the risk of being interrupted. In order to avoid being stunned as well, these gauntlets are more thickly insulated than Izuku's previous ones. Not to mention they also now house machinery to create and channel the electrical shock, resulting in them being a bit heavier than what the boy is used to. Due to all the time and effort he has put into his physical training, this is not much of an issue, at least not in short fights, though the same cannot be said for protracted engagements, as the extra weight leads to fatiguing slightly faster, with this strain compounding the longer the fight goes on. Subsequently, Izuku's goal is to acquire endurance with these new gauntlets, with Aizawa suggesting the best way to do so is simply to practice his moves while wearing them over and over again, until he simply cannot keep his arms up. Then once he has established his limit, begin again, and focus on enduring just that little bit longer. Even if the growth is incremental, it is still progress, with each improvement being worthwhile. Taking this to heart, and having that unrelenting drive to be the best hero he can be, Izuku works as hard as he can, with his determination only being matched by Bakugou, who is even more motivated than in canon, due to this now being a matter of pride to him, and a chance to prove the empirical superiority of quirks over tech, since quirks can grow with effort while tech can't change. As a result, both boys practically break themselves, with Bakugou demanding hotter and hotter water to submerge his hands in to expand his sweat glands, while Izuku keeps up his relentless shadowboxing, with this informing him of a secondary weakness the gauntlets possess. Overusing the shock function will run the risk of causing the device to overload, as it's only designed for short bursts. Nonetheless, both feel as though they've made significant improvements when the wild pussycats call a halt to the day's training, so they can start making dinner. Even then, Izuku does not take a break from his hero work, as having seen Kota slinking away with a dark look on his face, he rushes to catch up with him, while bringing a plate of curry in case the boy is hungry. Unfortunately, this is met by the same flat refusal as canon, with Kota explaining his hatred for quirks and heroes, though here Izuku is not able to reach him as effectively, as his story is less analogous to the boys, so all he can do is leave the curry and return to his friends. From here, the next day goes as canon too, all the way into the evening when the Vanguard Action Squad attacks during the test of courage with their black smoke. Here Izuku proves invaluable, as due to being the only quirkless student, and thus the only one allowed to wear his hero suit, he is able to pass through the poisonous gas courtesy of his suit's respirator. This also allows him to reach Kota slightly faster than in canon and protect him from the villain who murdered his parents, Muscular, though in doing so, he gives the big brute a new target, and one he will find much more enjoyment in fighting. Recognizing this cannot be ended peacefully, Izuku urges Kota to run while he looks for a way to use the environment to his advantage. Due to being on a wide open cliff face, hiding and attacking from the shadows isn't really an option, though we can at least gain some height for a dropkick, something he is quick to do, only for the villain to manifest muscle fibers along his arms and block the blow with ease, while smirking that it heard the bat was better than that. Seeing this is not a foe who can be easily intimidated, Izuku instead attempts to press him, both physically as he closes in for a leg sweep, and mentally, by asking what he's doing here, to which Muscular obligingly explains that he's here with the League of Villains, though while they're trying to capture some target, he's just here to have a fun fight. Unfortunately, it seems this really is the criminal's main objective, and one he will not be deterred from, as before the leg sweep can connect, Muscular exhibits surprising speed as he darts back before leering it'll take more than that Bush League level of skill to defeat him. In showing that he can walk the talk, the large villain then dashes back in, his arms growing even thicker with muscle fibers before bringing them down on Izuku's head in a way that would surely prove fatal if not for his helmet. Nonetheless, it is still enough to daze him, allowing Muscular to land a punch to the boy's ribs that sends him crashing into the rocky cliff wall with enough force to leave a crater. Thankfully, before the bulky bruiser can step in to finish the job, Kota distracts him with a burst of water from his quirk that sprays him in the face, and allows Izuku to get back up and drive an electrified gut shot into the villain. It is here that something interesting happens, as when Muscular is sent skidding back, there is an almost comical element to it, as he maintains the exact same position he was in when he got struck. However, This is not simple silliness on the villain's part, but instead a weakness, and one Izuku can exploit, as using his knack for quirk analysis, he concludes this must be the drawback to Musculars. But like any muscle fiber, these ones contract when shocked, and since the brute has covered himself in them to amplify his power, he has built his own cage, meaning all Izuku has to do is lock the door, and he will be completely immobilized until one of the pros can arrive to apprehend him. Knowing he cannot afford to dilly-dally, Izuku launches forward, his shock gauntlets buzzing once again, though unfortunately there is one thing he failed to account for: how quickly a seasoned fighter like Muscular can recover from injuries, even severe ones like this, with him regaining control of his body just as the boy closes in, and using this to the fullest, he darts out of the way of the strike, then grabs Izuku around the wrist where it is safe to touch. However, this is not the end of Muscular's move, as when his young foe attempts to break free of the hold, the one-eyed beast yanks harder, pulling the boy backwards and allowing his other hand to close around Izuku's leg. Then, in one ruthless and fluid movement, he lifts the hero high, before slamming his spine into his knee, shattering it along with any hopes Izuku has of winning this fight. At once, lights pop behind the green-haired hero's eyes, as even with adrenaline dampening the pain, this is greater than anything Izuku has experienced before, so that when Muscular drops him to the ground like a sack of potatoes, there is little he can do but whimper. Seeing no fun in playing with a broken toy, the villain then turns his attention to Koda, cracking his knuckles menacingly. Even in the midst of all his pain, Izuku cannot fail to see the look of terror on Koda's face at this, and refusing to let down someone who's counting on him, he does the only thing he can, reaching out with his hands and clamping them both shut around Muscular's ankle. Looking down at the bothersome little bug, the massive muscles prepares to stomp on his head and end his annoyance for good, though before he can, a more powerful shock than before courses through his body, freezing him in place. Seeing this, Izuku smiles weakly beneath the mask, though having no time to congratulate himself, he instead screams for Koda to blast the bad guy once more with his water, then run and get help, something the younger boy is reluctant to do after finally meeting a hero worth believing in. Though putting his trust in the Batman, he does as he's told, causing Muscular to take even more damage thanks to the water's conductivity. Unfortunately, even this is not enough to down him, with instead becoming something of a stalemate, as Muscular's paralysis locks him in place while Izuku's broken back prevents him from landing any further hits. Meanwhile, the shock gauntlets growing increasingly hot against the boy's hands and wrists as they inch closer and closer to overloading, with the young hero in training recognizing this will be the make or break moment, as the power surge will either be what he needs to finally knock this big brute out, or it will fizzle, freeing Muscular up to kill him and then wreak havoc upon his classmates. Having faith in Bruce's tech, Izuku does not fear, instead gritting his teeth as the shock finally grows large enough to overcome the insulation, so that he too is electrocuted, before finally the batteries explode, with this being the last thing he feels as he is blown back and the pain of his shattered spine hitting stone causes him to black out. An unknown amount of time later, Izuku awakens somewhere warm and soft, while an unfamiliar old man in a crisp suit stands over him. A little startled by the presence of this stranger, the boy jumps slightly, though this just earns him a tut from the man who calls him Young Master Izuku, and lightly scolds that Master Bruce would not be pleased if he re-injured his back so soon after Miss Shuzenji used her quirk to repair it. At the mention of Bruce, Izuku quickly calms down, instead asking who the man is, to which he is informed that he is Alfred Pennyworth, Master Bruce's personal butler, confidant, surgeon, and on occasion, bodyguard, which is the capacity he is here in now. Like the mention of his mentor, this triggers something in Izuku's brain, with the boy questioning if Koda and the others got to safety, with Alfred replying that they most certainly did, and that the ruffian known as Muscular was rounded up along with several other villains, while aside from young Master Izuku now sporting a pair of fetching burn scars on his wrist from the destruction of the shock gauntlets, there were no casualties or lasting injuries among the trainee heroes. Having studied under the frequently cryptic Batman, Izuku can tell there is something Alfred is not saying, and so fixing with a look that is half-shrewd, half-pleading, asks outright what Bruce has instructed the butler not to tell him, saying that he supposes analytical insight is just as much a hallmark of being Batman as the scars he and Master Bruce seem intent on collecting. Alfred admits that the victory was not as absolute as he first made it seem. While it is true there were no deaths or lasting injuries, a member of the Wild Wild Pussycats is missing, and young Master Todoroki was kidnapped. escaped. Figuring this must have been the target Muscular mentioned, Izuku protests that he has to go rescue him. Though giving the boy a stern look, Alfred retorts that he will do no such thing. Master Bruce has charged him with ensuring he gets the proper bed rest he requires, as while Recovery Girl was able to mend his injuries, his body still needs to recover from the shock and trauma, which means for now, he will be hanging up the cowl whether he likes it or not. Recognizing the truth in the older man's words, Izuku reluctantly agrees, though seeing the distress his inactivity is causing the young hero, Alfred does give him the slightest of smiles as he assures him that he need not worry, since the reason Master Bruce is not watching over him personally is because at present he along with All Might have joined Endeavor's task force to rescue his son, so he has every confidence that by this time tomorrow, Shoto Todoroki will be returned safe and sound. Speaking of, over in Kamino Ward, Bruce stands alongside All Might, Endeavor, Edgeshot, and Kamui Woods as they survey the League of Villains' hideout. While all of them are seasoned pros, each of them still feels a tightness in their stomach as they consider the enormity of what victory here will mean, as well as the catastrophic cost of failure. That is aside from Endeavor, who is pacing in clear agitation, an understandable reaction as it is his child who was abducted, with the fire-faced man snarling that Best Jeanist team is taking too long to radio in from the other hideout. Knowing better than to try and reason with a man like Enji Todoroki, Bruce instead looks to All Might, questioning if his old friend is okay, as it will be the first time the pair have worked together since Island. Never one to hold a grudge, especially when he knows Bruce was simply upholding his view of justice. All Might nods that he stands ready to fight alongside him as they have done many times before. Though not much of a smiler, there is a warmth to the bat-clad man's tone as he replies that there's no one he'd rather have watching his back. Then, as the radio sounds signaling that it's time to begin, both men fall silent. As Endeavor is the lead here rather than All Might, he does not bother with the Pizza Man deception, instead channeling his flames and bursting through the bar wall like a big burning Kool-Aid man. However, in spite of all the heat around him, his blood runs cold as he sees what awaits him inside. Shoto bound in a chair, while in front of him stands the burned man from the Pussycats report. Dabi, he believes they called him, though while the report listed him as having black hair, here it is white as snow, and as he turns to face the intruder, Endeavor recognizes eyes he has not seen in years, eyes he thought had been closed forever, and so can do little more than croak out, "Toya?" Stitched lips twisting into a cruel mockery of a smile, the white-haired man responds with the strongest confirmation he can, a jet of blue flames that Endeavor must counter with his own orange ones. However, despite his best efforts, the flame hero simply cannot compete, with it seeming he will be incinerated by his son's blaze, only for a sudden gust of air to blow the two fires out like birthday candles, as All Might unleashes a Texas smash to announce that he and the other pro heroes have joined the fight. In an instant, the tide is turned, as Kamui Woods uses his lacquered chain prison to incapacitate the villains, while Edgeshot makes short work of Kurogiri, truly making it seem as though it's game over for the League of Villains. However, it seems fate, or more accurately, All for One, has other plans, as before Endeavor can approach his two sons, foul black liquid bursts from the mouths of all the villains in Shoto, engulfing them and immediately teleporting them to the master villain's side. Unsurprisingly, this second abduction, just when he was about to show Shoto why his way is best and get answers as to how Toya survived, enrages Endeavor, with the man barely noticing as a swarm of Nomu replace the villains and begin bearing down on him and the other pros. Not having time for this, the flame-faced man instead takes off without a word, leaving the others to handle this while he makes a beeline for the other hideout, since if the Nomu from there are here now, then Shoto and Toya must be there. Recognizing what the other number 2 is thinking, and that he won't be much use against creatures like Nomu that don't feel fear, Bruce instead looks to All Might and states that he'll go after Endeavor, an idea the blonde man agrees with entirely, wishing his friend good luck as Bruce pulls out his grappler and rappels out into the street where he may begin to glide. Thankfully, due to Japanese architecture favoring height and dense urban areas, Bruce has plenty of buildings to latch onto each time he glides too low, meaning he arrives at the second hideout shortly after Endeavor. From the looks of things, the flame hero has already demolished the building in an attempt to find his sons, with it not taking Bruce long to spot them and the other villains standing alongside a man in a suit and life support mask. While such a figure should not be threatening, something in the way this man carries himself radiates pure evil backed by immense power, and though Bruce has never seen him before, he immediately recognizes the figure as the man Toshinori told him about. All for One. Unfortunately, it seems this is also the person Endeavor has chosen to target, despite the fact that he must be responsible for Best Jeanist and his team now lying scattered and unconscious on the ground, and though Bruce tries to urge him to stop, this warning falls on deaf ears, with the fiery father bursting forward, only to be intercepted by Toya, who seems rather intent on immolating his dad as repayment for some past sin. considering the sort of man Enji Todoroki is, and the fact 2 of his children bear the scars of severe burns, Bruce has a pretty good idea what that might be, though right now he is not here to judge the Flame Hero. Instead, his focus should be on rescuing the hostage, who presently is in the clutches of Shigaraki and the Vanguard Action Squad. Using the fact that no one is paying him any mind to his advantage, Bruce deftly vanishes into the shadows, allowing him to gain some height from which he can attack, tossing several batarangs before employing a drop kick. While this latter move had been meant for Shigaraki as a means of taking him out before he could use his hands, it is intercepted by Spinner at the last second, seeing him knocked out, while Magna, Twice, Toga, and Mr. Compressor are all stunned by the batarangs, so that only Shigaraki and Shoto remain standing. Growling that he should have known the damn bat would try to get involved, Shigaraki wastes no time in lunging at Bruce, though thinking fast, the Dark Knight ducks underneath the grab and drives a punch into the scruffy man's inner elbow that makes him hiss as he grabs onto his cape. Having read that Shigaraki's quirk will decay anything connected to the place he touched as well, Bruce deftly detaches his cape, thus saving himself, though it does give his opponent another chance to strike, with Bats only narrowly sidestepping a grab that would have disintegrated his torso. Nonetheless, he does not fall back, instead baiting Shigaraki into trying to grab his throat this time, only to drive a batarang into his palm, damaging it enough that he won't have to worry about decay from that hand anymore. While Shigaraki does still have his other hand, it is his non-dominant one, meaning his use of it is more sloppy, easily allowing Bruce to strike a pressure point in his armpit then another in his shoulder, temporarily immobilizing that arm too. Unfortunately, before Bruce can place the villain under arrest, All For One steps in to rescue his protege, employing an air cannon that shreds the back of Bruce's batsuit and brings him to his knees. In an almost approving voice, All For One commends that very few heroes have managed to weather one of his blasts, though none have ever withstood 2, a claim he quickly proves the truth of as he lets loose a second burst of air. In an attempt to shield his back, Bruce weakly rolls into a sitting position, though this is not much better, as now it is the front of his suit that is destroyed, while several of his ribs snap, with one plunging through his lung. Wheezing and coughing up blood, the caped crusader collapses onto his back, with All For One calling this a pitiful sight, though not an unexpected one. In the end, the only thing that matters is the power of one's quirk, and since Mr. Wayne does not have one, he also has no value, not even being worth the effort of a quick death. Instead, he will leave him to die in the gutter like so much other quirkless trash during his reign. Unable to move, Bruce can do little as the faceless man then commands Tomura to take his allies and the Todoroki boy and flee, employing his forced quirk activation to summon one last portal from the unconscious Kurogiri as a means of escape. Eager to regroup and begin reaping destruction once again, Shigaraki obeys, having his subordinates head through the portal, while he begins to lug the bound Shoto behind him, though here at last one bright patch appears. One blindingly bright patch in the form of All Might, as he at last arrives, descending on the battlefield with a slam that blasts Shigaraki through the portal, while also shattering Todoroki's restraints. Gruffly, Bruce grunts that his old friend took his sweet time getting here, though flashing that dazzling grin of his, All Might replies that he had to help the others defeat the Nomu first. Then, with just as warm a smile, he looks down at the youngest Todoroki and instructs him to get to safety, since he's been very brave, but now it is time for the pros to show the next generation they are still worth looking up to. Nodding his understanding, Shoto wastes no time in using his eyes to glide away, while All Might turns his attention to Endeavor and the 2 remaining villains. Reluctant though he is to accept his rival's help, the Flame Hero is sensible enough to see that this could work to his advantage, as he barks at All Might to incapacitate Toya if he can, while he handles the masked villain. Urgently, Bruce and All Might try to warn Endeavor about the foolishness of this plan, though it is already too late, as he has thrown himself forward and launched a jet burn right at All For One. Sadly, such an obvious move will not defeat a Demon Lord, with All For One manifesting a shield that absorbs most of the damage with one hand, while with the other he transforms his fingers into sharp snaking appendages that zigzag out and pierce the number 2's shoulder. Nonetheless, Endeavor does not give up, burning away the fingers stuck in him, before continuing his determined frontal assault as he roars that All For One will explain why he took Shoto and Toya. Cackling slightly, the masked villain replies that Toya was once considered to be his successor, though due to his injuries, that quickly proved non-viable, whereas Shoto was chosen by Tomura, since he believed the boy would make a fine addition to the League of Villains, thanks to the strength that brought him victory in the sports festival and his cold, ruthless demeanor, both of which he should probably thank Endeavor for. As expected, this only incenses the Flame Hero more, though rather than making him sloppy and easier to manipulate, it seems that Endeavor's rage gives him power, allowing his next attack to crack All For One's shield and actually do some damage. though unfortunately, this is quickly healed by the villain's stolen hyper-regeneration quirk. Nonetheless, this is a win for the heroes, and one All Might is eager to push even further, as he believes that if he and Endeavor could attack All For One together with their strongest ultimate moves, they may be able to overcome his regeneration and defeat him once and for all. Though to do so, the number one hero will first need to get past Toya, who is seemingly just as keen on the idea of incinerating him as he is his father. To this end, the white-haired man continues launching blue variants of Endeavor's own attacks at All Might, in what is clearly meant as psychological warfare, forcing him to dissipate them with powerful gusts of wind from his punches, each of which reduces the amount of stamina he has left to maintain his muscle form. No doubt this is why All For One allowed the scarred youth to stick around, in the hope that he will wear him out and expose his frail true form to the world, damaging the image of the symbol of peace. Knowing that he cannot allow this to happen, All Might makes a difficult decision, and so readies a Detroit smash which he must perform with the utmost care not to kill Toya, as he sincerely wants to see the young man reunited with his family, and given the psychological help he needs, so that someday he may smile again without it being marred by murderous rage. However, that can only happen if he defeats him here and pulls him from the dark path he's walking. In contrast, it seems the only path Toya wants to put All Might on is the one to the afterlife, as he prepares another fiery barrage, though shockingly, this proves beneficial to the older man's plans, as by waiting until the blue flames have been summoned, All Might can aim his attack at them, dissipating them, while leaving enough force to knock the villain prone but definitely alive. Meanwhile, back with Endeavor, he is not about to be outdone by his rival, and so prepares his own finishing move, a new technique he's been working on called Prominence Burn. At once, flames begin to blaze all around Endeavor, before concentrating into a singular beam that fires directly at All For One, the latter of whom's shield quirk can do little against such an attack, shattering and leaving its wielder exposed to the heat of a sun. In the aftermath of the blinding burst, both Endeavor and All For One have joined Bruce and Toya on the ground, albeit in far worse shape than either of them, as the Flame Hero's body is showing signs of critical, possibly fatal overheating, while the faceless fiend is barely more than a charred corpse, having taken such severe damage that his hyper-regeneration cannot fix it, meaning he will almost certainly be dead within a matter of minutes. As the last man standing, All Might gives his thanks to his comrades for their part in stopping All For One once and for all, though this just earns the number one hero a raspy chuckle torn from his nemesis' scorched throat, as he wryly states that this is not the end for him. Far from it, though it will be for the heroes gathered here, won't it, Toya? At this question, Toya's, or rather Dabi's, mad cackles begin to mingle with All For One's, as he jeers that it was over the moment his dad busted into the bar, since he's been compressing thermal energy inside himself ever since, turning himself into a nuclear bomb. And right now, he's got enough power stored up to create a 1 kilometer blast radius. More than enough to finish off Endeavor. Though, really, his pops ought to be proud of him, since he's about to surpass and destroy All Might, just like his dad always wanted him to. Evidently, this thought is so hilarious to Dabi that he cannot stop himself from descending into a fit of screaming laughter that reminds Bruce all too much of an old enemy. However, in his present state, he is too hurt to do anything that might stop the insane pyromaniac, with it being plain to see that Endeavor and the other heroes are in the same boat. That is, aside from All Might, who in spite of the dire situation hitches that trademark smile onto his face, as he declares that Dabi will not harm his friends or the civilians of Kamino Ward, not so long as he is here. Though his breaths are numbered and in short supply, All For One questions just what All Might thinks he can do, and turning his gaze on the Demon Lord of Days Gone By, the symbol of peace simply answers, this. As it turns out, what this is hoisting the now burning Dabi onto his shoulder. Not that it will do much good, since after running all the possibilities in his head, Bruce concludes there is no means through which All Might will be able to get him more than a kilometer away from people before he self-destructs. That is, unless he were to go... As if he can read the Dark Knight's mind, the number one hero kicks off from the ground with enough force to leave a crater, as he performs a leap that would make Clark jealous, or taking himself and Dabi high above the tallest building in the area. However, even this is not enough to ensure that no one is caught in the blast, and so grabbing the young madman almost apologetically, All Might begins to spin him like a hammer throw, before tossing him directly upwards with all his strength. Even with gravity working against him, this manages to put some real distance between Dabi and the people of Kamino Ward, enough that when he erupts into a miniature blue sun a few moments later, no innocents are hurt. Though, this is not to say no one is, as while All Might was strong enough to toss Dabi more than a kilometer from the tallest building, he was not strong enough to toss him more than a kilometer from himself, so that as the Azure Orb bursts into life, Toshinori Yagi is the only one caught in the blast. And that's where we'll leave things for now. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave your thoughts, suggestions, or screams of rage in the comments below.